Consecrated Christians are Christians who are so busy serving the Lord that they have neither the time nor the taste for the things of the world. They have found their joy and their complete satisfaction in Christ. Fundamentalism ceased to be a term that my father could use for himself without profound qualification. And that didn't change for 40 years. I'm going to show you one more video clip. Get ready for this one. Here's my daddy in his 70s, Washington Avenue Baptist Church, Greenville, South Carolina, on what is real Christianity. Pretty strong words here.
What is Christianity? I tried to answer that a little bit this morning. Christianity, dear friends, is not a set of rules and regulations. Christianity is not a list of dogmas. Christianity is not any creed. Christianity is not any rite or ritual like baptism or communion. Christianity is not a passionless purity. Christianity is not degrees of goodness. How many people do you know, for example, say, well, if you're good enough, you go to heaven. If you're bad enough, you go to hell. And many people have it fixed that way. But Christianity is not a matter of degrees of goodness. Let me quickly add also that Christianity is not even fundamentalism. Let me remind this audience that the devil is fundamental. If what you mean by fundamental is believing everything that's in the Bible, then the devil is a fundamentalist. It takes more than being just fundamental to be a Christian. Christianity is not a fighting orthodoxy or a militant orthodoxy. Some people today equate fighting some sort of militant orthodoxy for spirituality and being born again, but it's not the same. I believe you can fight for Jesus in the energy of the flesh. And I believe the devil can use you if you're not careful.
To say the devil is a fundamentalist in Greenville, South Carolina is risky talk. He was too old to care. He never cared. Well, if it's not rules, if it's not dogmas, if it's not creeds, if it's not rituals, if it's not passionless purity, if it's not degrees of goodness, and the devil himself is a fundamentalist because he agrees with all the fundamentalists, what's the heart of the matter, Daddy? That's really not hard for me to answer. I got so many quotes from so many places about what my father believed was the heart of the matter and what stamps me so profoundly. I'll just close with trying to show you where I came from, as imperfect as I represent what he stood for. The answer was the heart of the matter, Christianity, gospel-rooted, Christ-savoring, God-glorifying joy was the heart of the matter. My father was stunned by the gospel. He exulted in the gospel. Everything in fundamentalism was secondary to the glory of Christ enjoyed in the gospel. The gospel meant salvation, and salvation meant total satisfaction in Christ. Listen. Other religions are spelled do. Christianity is spelled done. If you would be saved, you must place your trust in the finished work of Christ on the cross. In Him, all sin was punished and God's holiness was vindicated. God is satisfied with Christ as to the perfection of His life and righteousness, and as to the completeness of His work in the sinner's behalf. God's only requirement for salvation is that you too be satisfied with Christ and His work. Where did John Piper learn that? Where did I discover that delight in God is our highest duty? Before Jonathan Edwards, before C.S. Lewis, before Daniel Fuller, there was Bill Piper, unsystematically, unapologetically, and sometimes, I think, unwittingly saying God's only requirement is that you be satisfied with Christ. Long before John Piper read C.S. Lewis' The Weight of Glory and learned about the folly of making mud pies in the slums because he can't imagine what is meant by a holiday at the sea, long before that, he was hearing his father talk about the cow and the barbed wire fence by the road. I've often seen a cow stick her head through a barbed wire fence to chew the stubby grass bordering the highway when behind her lay a whole pasture of grass. I have always been reminded of Christians who have not learned to completely trust Christ, reaching out to the world for sensual pleasure when rivers of pleasure were at their disposal in Christ. No one is denying that there are pleasures to be had in this world. That's not the point. The point is that there are other pleasures to be had in this life, pleasures so great in depth, significance, satisfaction, duration, that they far exceed the pleasures of sin. They are the pleasures to be found in the knowledge and the service of Christ. End of quote. Long before John Piper ever read Blaise Pascal's Pensées, All Men Seek Happiness, he was absorbing from his father these truths. In the 1940s, Daddy preached this: everyone wants to be happy. Sinners seek it in pleasure and fame and wealth and unbelief, but they seek in vain. Christians have found the answer to happiness in Christ. What are the pleasures? What are these rivers of pleasures? What are the pasture lands behind this cow nibbling at the stubby grass along the road with his head through the barbed wire fence? What are they? And my father would answer, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Quote, the devil can't make a raindrop. The devil never made a raindrop, a snowflake. He never made a baby smile or a nightingale sing. He never placed a golden sun in the western sky or filled the night with stars. Why? Because these things are not His to give. God is the Creator, possessor of them all, and He lovingly shares them with us all. And you wonder, my dad was a poet? Poets are people who see the indescribable glory everywhere and will not be daunted in their passions to make language its revelation. My father found reason to rejoice everywhere, like water. He had an invincible faith that all things work for good according to God's wise purpose to reveal His glory. Even in his final years of dementia, this was a gift to us. I don't know that my dad lived long enough, Don, to go through the irascible stage. We did get some reports. I never saw much of it, but I understand it. By and large, in his dementia, he was quite affable, which was a gift to us. He kept a journal to the end of his ability to keep a journal. It stopped in April of 2004. From the last 2 pages of his journal, I read this. So this was